What's going on, everybody? Today I want to talk about Pompano Beach again, but I want to talk about some pros and cons of living here. Welcome to Living Fort Lauderdale, where we make videos weekly about what it's like to move to or live in the Fort Lauderdale area. So if that's what you're looking for, make sure to subscribe. And I am a licensed realtor here in Florida, so just as much as I love making these videos, I love even more to help you with your real estate needs. So my number and email are popping up right here. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or you're planning a move down here. I'd love to hear from you. But with that being said, let's talk about it. Pros and cons of living in Pompano Beach. All right, so diving right in no particular order, the first pro is going to be Pompano Beach is up and coming. And I've spoken about this in previous videos. The town is under a massive redevelopment, whether it's the downtown area, the fishing pier and the beach. They are redoing this whole town. And this is something that's been 20 years in the making, at least the downtown has. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about what they're doing. I'll link my other Pompano Beach video up here. You can go take a look at that. But yes, they are redoing the whole downtown, which is pretty sorry and sad looking right now. They redid the whole beach and fishing pier. They brought a ton of new businesses, ton of new restaurants down there, and they just basically revitalized the whole area. So they're building a ton of new apartments in Pompano Beach. And it's just kind of a town that always fell in Fort Lauderdale's shadow, I guess you could say. So that's not what they want anymore. And they're finally taking steps towards actually making it a city, a real city. So Pompano Beach, up and coming, first pro. Now, the first con that goes along with that is just going to be the construction. I mean, when a city's under redevelopment, you can just expect a lot of construction. And you're going to see it everywhere in Pompano Beach, especially on Atlantic Boulevard down near 95. You'll often see a lot of lanes closed off. You'll just see a lot of construction and road work in that area. The amount of apartments that are going up just on US 1 and on Atlantic, there's tons of construction going around. It's just something you got to deal with when a city is up and coming. But I know a lot of people don't like that type of stuff, don't like the road closures, don't like the road work, don't like the traffic that comes with it. So that's going to be the first con, a lot of construction. So the next pro in Pompano Beach is going to be the cost of housing. And while it is still about 6% higher than the national average, it's about 34% lower than Fort Lauderdale. So a lot of you that are looking to move down here and are interested in the Fort Lauderdale area, Pompano Beach, their cost of housing is 34% lower. So, up and coming city, this is usually the time to get in before the city is what Fort Lauderdale is now. I mean, this was Fort Lauderdale, 5 to 10 years ago, and look at it now. Look at the price of homes. And a lot of people are choosing that want to move down here to look elsewhere in towns like Pompano Beach just because of the cost of housing. So it's not so much that people can't afford to live in Fort Lauderdale, they're just not willing to pay the prices of what a home is actually going to get them down there. So they're looking in places like Pompano, which still have a relatively low cost of housing compared to Fort Lauderdale. And who knows how much longer this will last. But pro number 2, low cost of housing. And going along with that, the next con is going to be a higher cost of living. Now, I guess you can kind of spin this either way, but Pompano Beach is 10% higher than the national average for cost of living, but at the same token, it's 10% lower than Fort Lauderdale. So it really depends on how you want to look at it. Florida, South Florida, generally, the cost of living doesn't vary too much from area to area, and if it does, a majority of it is going to just come from housing costs. But yes, Pompano Beach is higher than the national average by about 10%, but if you're looking to move to the area, it is lower than Fort Lauderdale. All right, so the next pro, like I mentioned earlier about the redevelopment, is going to be the beach and the fishing pier. So they redid the whole thing. The fishing pier is really nice. The beach is really nice. Like I mentioned, they brought a ton of new businesses down there, restaurants, hotels. They're building a lot of new construction, like luxury developments down there. So they're just really trying to make the beach a nice place, which, I mean, not even too long ago, it was kind of just a dead zone. So Pompano Beach doesn't get as crowded as Fort Lauderdale Beach, but it's starting to get there, especially the Atlantic Beach fishing pier area. It's starting to get crowded. And one cool thing about Pompano Beach is the coral reef. So there's actually living coral reef not too far offshore. So if you're into scuba diving and snorkeling, you know, that's something pretty cool to check out. All right, so the next con, and I mean, this really goes without saying, but it's gonna be traffic and congestion. And I have to mention it, even though I know South Florida pretty much has traffic no matter where you go. But, you know, due to the road work, due to all the construction that's going on in Pompano, and just some of the roads being older and smaller, you do tend to see a lot of traffic and congestion, especially around the highways, where they really have a lot of those roads closed off. So again, something that you have to put up with in an up and coming city, but it's definitely a con. Nobody likes sitting in traffic. So that's the next con. And the next pro is going to be that there's plenty of stuff to do here. And I was reading some forums, and maybe I should have checked the dates. Maybe they were from a long time ago, but a lot of people were complaining that Pompano Beach has nothing to do. And I mean, for context, I live in Fort Lauderdale, but I live in the northernmost part, so I'm pretty much right on the border of Pompano, and I'm always there. Pompano has a ton of stuff going on all the time. I mean, first they have that massive community park, which I've spoken about before, that has all the baseball fields, aquatic centers. It has an amphitheater in the park, so, you know, there's concerts that go on there, like legit concerts with famous people, not small little in the park concerts. They have a ton of festivals, like they have the seafood festival that was in that park. They have an Italian festival. They have an air drone show, parades for the holidays where they close off Atlantic Boulevard and the bridge. I mean, they have a lot of stuff that goes on in Pompano. So it's kind of cool because especially East Pompano, it's got like this tight knit feel. Not like a small town feel. I don't really know how to describe it, but it just feels very tight knit, like it is a small city, I guess, but it's really not. It's pretty big actually. And so the next con of living in Pompano Beach is going to be outdated housing. And yeah, I mean, it's an older city, so, you know, it comes along with the territory. The housing is a little bit outdated, but that may not necessarily be a bad thing, because especially when it comes to the condos, typically when those condos were built in like the 60s, they were built a little bit bigger and the balconies were bigger. And there's really not a lot to worry about, because all these high rises, these older buildings, you know, they do have to go through their 40-year certification inspection. So you're going to know if a building is safe or not just because it's old. But, you know, I'm also speaking about some of the housing that's in the city. It's not necessarily very pretty looking because it is very old, but, you know, this is something that they're working on. And they are starting to build a lot of luxury new developments in the city, like Casamar, Solamar. You have the Ritz-Carlton, which is going up on Pompano Beach. So it's something that they're working on, but it is something to consider that a lot of the housing in Pompano is old and you just don't tend to see too much new construction. And so with that, the next thing that I want to leave you with is my number and email popping up right here. If you have any questions or you're planning a move down here, reach out at any time. I'd love to have a conversation with you and see what I can do to help you. So with that, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll catch you on the next one.